5 strangers become trapped inside an elevator, without realizing one of them is the devil in disguise. The movie begins with the voice of a man named Ramirez, as he tells a story about a devil that his mother used to talk about when he was a child. According to the story, the devil would come into the world at a certain time to take the souls of sinful people who never truly regretted their actions. The devil was also believed to be able to disguise itself and take the form of an ordinary human. For years, Ramirez thought the story was nothing more than an old legend, until he eventually experienced the horrifying events happening right in front of his own eyes. The scene then shifts to a detective named Bowden having breakfast with his friend. During their conversation, the topic slowly turns toward forgiveness. Bowden has a dark past, where his wife and child were killed in a hit-and-run accident caused by someone who was never caught. The driver only left behind a small note containing an apology without ever taking responsibility for what he had done. Since losing his family, Bowden has become an alcoholic and lives with deep hatred toward the person who destroyed his life. His friend tries to convince him to let go of the past and learn to forgive the man responsible, but Bowden admits that he cannot do it because the pain and anger inside him are still too great. Not long after that, Bowden receives a report about a suicide case where someone jumped from the top of a building and landed directly on top of a box truck. Bowden is then assigned to investigate the case immediately.
You sure he wasn't thrown?
He's got a rosary in his hand. Your guy jumped from that building. Let's walk it.
At the same time, 5 strangers enter an elevator inside the same building where the suicide case happened.
42, please.
Thanks for your help.
They are Ben, a newly hired security guard, a mysterious old woman whose name is unknown, Vince, who works as a mattress salesman, Sarah, a young woman with an elegant appearance who seems to come from a wealthy family, and Tony, a former mechanic. However, not long after the elevator starts moving, it suddenly stops without warning, leaving everyone inside confused and uneasy. In the building's security room, the head of security named Lustig and his partner Ramirez immediately realize that something is wrong with the elevator. They quickly contact a building technician named Dwight and ask him to inspect the malfunction through the elevator machine room located at the top of the building.
Call Dwight.
Yo, Dwight, you got a problem. The elevator? Just go up to the machine room and check it out, okay?
On my way.
Meanwhile, inside the elevator, the old woman and Vince immediately start blaming Ben for being incompetent as a security guard. They are annoyed because Ben did not bring a walkie-talkie and seems to have no understanding of emergency procedures during an elevator malfunction. Not long after that, Lustig's voice is heard through the elevator speaker, asking everyone to remain calm because the building technician is on his way to inspect the elevator. However, due to the broken microphone inside the elevator, the communication only works one way, meaning Lustig can talk to them, but he cannot hear anything they say in return.
Your building sucks!
Hang tough, we got the building engineer on his way.
I can't hear you.
Okay, give us a sec.
The speaker in the car is supposed to let us talk both ways, but you can hear me.
In the middle of the situation, Ben tries to find a phone signal so he can contact his boss who is waiting for the important documents he is carrying, but there is no signal at all inside the elevator. A few moments later, the elevator music suddenly turns on, and Vince casually starts singing along, making the atmosphere even more uncomfortable for everyone inside. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Bowden and his partner arrive at the building and discover broken glass scattered across the sidewalk. Seeing that, Bowden becomes even more convinced that the suicide case happened in that building. However, while they are examining the area, a large piece of glass suddenly falls from above and almost hits Bowden's partner.
I'm declaring this a crime scene. You wouldn't happen to have a broken window up there, would you? Car 602.
On the other side, Dwight heads toward the machine room at the top of the building to inspect the malfunctioning elevator. After checking the system, he does not find anything suspicious. He then tries to reset the elevator system and immediately contacts Lustig. Lustig informs the people inside the elevator that the power will be turned off for a few seconds during the reset process. When the lights come back on, the old woman suddenly panics and screams at Ben to stay away from her. Ben apologizes and admits that he suffers from claustrophobia, a fear of being trapped in tight spaces. After hearing that, Tony opens the panel on top of the elevator to let fresh air in and help calm Ben down. Ben briefly considers climbing out through the panel, but Tony warns him not to do it because it is far too dangerous. However, even after the system reset, the elevator still refuses to move. Because of that, Dwight decides to inspect the elevator from the lower part of the building instead. Meanwhile, Lustig and Ramirez begin talking about the shattered window on the 35th floor and suspect that someone committed suicide there earlier that morning. Back inside the elevator, the atmosphere between them starts becoming increasingly uncomfortable. Vince tries to lighten the mood by promoting the mattresses he sells to the old woman. After that, he begins commenting on everyone's appearance and says that Sarah must be rich based on the expensive clothes she is wearing. However, Vince's remarks only make Sarah feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, Sarah feels someone touching her body and immediately accuses Vince because he is standing right next to her.
Did you just touch my ass?
What?
Keep your hands off me.
At the same time, the elevator lights begin flickering again. From the main security room, Lustig quickly contacts Dwight and asks whether the disturbance is related to the repair process. However, Dwight explains that he is currently checking the elevator system from the lower part of the building and everything seems normal so far. He then tries pulling the safety lever to reset the elevator once again, but the elevator still refuses to move. Feeling that something is seriously wrong, Dwight decides to return to the top of the building and inspect the elevator machinery manually. Meanwhile, Ramirez starts feeling uneasy after briefly seeing a strange figure appear on the CCTV monitor while watching the situation inside the elevator. Not long later, the elevator lights suddenly go out again. The atmosphere inside immediately turns terrifying as strange sounds begin echoing from every direction.
What was that?
What?
When the lights finally come back on, Sarah is seen lying on the floor with an injury on her back. She claims that something seemed to bite her while the lights were off. At the same time, Vince secretly tries to hide bloodstains on his suit, but Ben quickly notices his suspicious behavior and starts accusing Vince of attacking Sarah. The suspicion slowly spreads until everyone inside the elevator begins seeing Vince as the main suspect.
You all right?
It feels like something bit me. Oh, what in the world?
Oh, you got blood on you, man.
Something must have happened to her, and then she fell into me.
So you cut her?
What? No.
You mind if we search your pockets? You wouldn't happen to have a knife with a serrated blade on you, would you?
Can you turn towards the camera and show us what happened to you? Oh my God.
As the tension continues rising, Ben and Tony try forcing the elevator doors open. Even though they manage to open the doors slightly, neither of them dares to climb out because they have no idea what floor the elevator is stuck on. Vince briefly tries to help them, but because everyone already suspects him, he is told to stay away and remain quiet in the corner of the elevator. Seeing the situation inside becoming more and more uncontrollable, Lustig decides to call the police. Detective Bowden is then assigned to handle the elevator incident as well, since he and his partner are already investigating the suicide case around the building.
Here. Strange.
Back in the main security room, Ramirez quickly shows the mysterious figure he saw on the CCTV footage. However, Lustig dismisses it as nothing more than a camera glitch. Even so, Ramirez remains convinced that something is seriously wrong inside the elevator. Not long after that, Bowden arrives and begins monitoring the CCTV footage from inside the elevator. Lustig immediately explains the situation, telling him that the people trapped inside have started suspecting one another. After understanding the situation, Bowden orders professional elevator technicians in the fire department to be called in immediately to assist with the rescue operation.
Please just remain calm. We're working hard to get you out of there. Shouldn't be much longer. Which guy?
That guy right there.
And have the fire department send some guys. Call the elevator company and have them send someone.
At the same time, he begins investigating the identities of everyone trapped inside the elevator. During the investigation, Ramirez once again mentions the strange figure he saw on the CCTV footage, but Bowden ignores him and considers the story unimportant. After that, Bowden asks everyone inside the elevator to hold their IDs up toward the CCTV camera. Unfortunately, the writing on the cards is too small to read clearly. Because of that, Bowden decides to use another method by checking the guest log in the building lobby to find out who had appointments in the building that day. From the records, they discover 4 registered names: Sarah, Ben, the old woman named Jane Kowski, and Vince. Meanwhile, Tony's name is nowhere to be found in the building's guest log. Meanwhile, inside the elevator, the lights begin flickering abnormally once again. In the middle of the tense situation, Sarah suddenly experiences a horrifying vision where everyone inside the elevator appears dead in a gruesome way. A few seconds later, the elevator lights go out completely, followed by the sound of shattering glass and strange noises coming from the darkness. When the lights finally come back on, Vince is seen dead with a shard of glass lodged deep into his neck. After realizing that someone has been killed, Ramirez quickly calls Bowden and Lustig. Understanding that the situation has now turned into a murder case, Bowden immediately requests additional support to handle the incident. Amid the growing panic, Ramirez begins telling the story about the devil his mother used to talk about. According to the legend, events like this always begin with a suicide, followed by chaos and death whenever the devil is near humans. The devil is believed to take the form of a human in order to punish sinful people before taking their souls, and this moment is known as the Devil's Meeting. Because of that, Ramirez becomes convinced that one of the 5 people inside the elevator is actually the devil in disguise. However, Bowden and the others pay little attention to the story and continue trying to find a logical explanation for everything happening.
We call it the Devil's Meeting. So today, people get hurt. Someone committed suicide. Now a man is dead. He takes human form before stealing them away and torments the damned on earth.
Is this guy for real?
I'm sorry.
Based on their early investigation, suspicion slowly starts falling on Ben after they discover that he was involved in a violent assault case in the past. On the other side, the situation inside the elevator becomes even more chaotic as everyone starts suspecting each other of being the killer, especially after the horrifying death that just happened. Not long later, the fire department finally arrives at the building to assist with the rescue operation. However, professional technicians from the elevator company cannot be called because the company has already gone bankrupt. From the main security room, Detective Bowden informs the people inside the elevator that the situation has officially become a murder case. In order to find more clues, Bowden asks one of them to take the letter from Vince's suit pocket. From the letter, they discover that Vince came to the building to meet someone on the 35th floor. While heading there, Bowden briefly stops by the room connected to the suicide case he is also investigating. A female forensic officer working at the scene shows him the note left behind by the suicide victim. In the note, the victim writes that he kept hearing the sound of the devil's footsteps, slowly getting closer to him.
Can you take a look at the suicide note? I can hear the devil's footsteps drawn here. It's strange, isn't it?
Afterward, Bowden meets the person who was supposed to see Vince that day. From the conversation, it is revealed that Vince was actually a professional con artist who had many enemies and often caused trouble for other people. After learning this, Bowden starts requesting a list of Vince's past victims because he believes one of them may have held a grudge against him. Meanwhile, the fire department continues trying to force the elevator doors open from the outside, but their efforts still fail. Inside the elevator, Tony attempts to find an escape route through the top panel, but Ben immediately pulls him back down after assuming Tony is trying to abandon everyone and escape alone. With trust completely gone between them, the atmosphere inside the elevator becomes even more tense.
Get up there, I can maybe figure out what's wrong with this thing.
He's trying to escape.
You knew what I was doing! I told you what I was doing! The hell are you doing?
We're all gonna stay right here.
At the same time, Bowden starts suspecting that one of the people inside the elevator is using a fake identity. According to him, if there really is a killer inside, that person would never leave their real identity so easily. Not long after that, Ramirez once again shows the mysterious figure that briefly appeared on the CCTV footage, a sight that further strengthens his theory about the devil's meeting. In response, Bowden shows the apology note that was left behind by the hit-and-run driver who killed his wife and child years ago. To Bowden, the note is proof that humans are capable of committing terrible acts, even without the influence of the devil. While reviewing the CCTV footage, Lustig notices something strange. When Sarah claimed that someone touched her, the camera footage showed nobody touching her at all. That discovery makes Bowden start believing that Sarah has been lying. On the other side, Dwight is trying to climb down using the elevator cables to repair the system directly. However, just as he is about to answer his walkie-talkie, a flock of birds suddenly appears out of nowhere. The birds startle Dwight and cause him to lose his balance, damaging his safety harness before he eventually falls to his death.
Hang on a second.
You gotta stop disappearing, seriously. Dwight, where are you?
At the same moment, the people inside the elevator hear a loud crashing sound from above. Dwight's walkie-talkie can be heard faintly through the ceiling, followed by blood dripping down from the top panel. They quickly realize that Dwight has fallen and died right on top of the elevator. In a panic, they try opening the upper panel to help him, but all of their efforts fail. Afterward, Bowden immediately heads to the top of the building and discovers Dwight's body. He then orders the fire department to break through the wall in order to rescue the people trapped inside the elevator. Not long later, Bowden reviews more CCTV footage showing everyone's activities before entering the elevator. From the recordings, it is revealed that the old woman named Jane Kowski had stolen someone's wallet earlier. Bowden also notices Tony entering the building with a red bag, but strangely, the bag is nowhere to be seen once he is inside the elevator. From that point on, Bowden starts realizing that every person trapped inside the elevator has a dark side, from Jane being a thief, Ben having a violent past, Sarah constantly lying, and Tony acting suspiciously. Meanwhile, inside the elevator, the lights begin flickering once again before suddenly going out completely. In the darkness, Ben lights a lighter to look around. However, in the faint light, he suddenly sees a strange figure standing right beside him. When the lights finally come back on, everyone is shocked to see the old woman hanging lifelessly from the elevator light cables. Tony and Ben quickly lower her body down.
Maybe, if I could just check my room.
Turn on the lights!
As the number of victims continues to rise, Bowden immediately orders the entire building to be locked down and gathers everyone inside at the lobby. The impossible deaths happening inside the elevator make Ramirez even more convinced that none of this is just a coincidence. After that, Bowden goes looking for the red bag Tony left behind and eventually finds it inside a restroom. When he opens it, he discovers various tools that could be used to tamper with the elevator system. From that moment on, Bowden begins suspecting Tony even more, especially because Tony's name was never listed in the building's guest log. While alone in the security room, Ramirez starts reciting prayers in an attempt to calm the situation. However, the sound of his prayers only makes the people inside the elevator even more emotional, causing another huge argument to break out. Sarah and Ben begin teaming up against Tony because they believe he is the most suspicious person there. Sarah even hysterically screams and tells Ben to kill Tony.
I don't even know your name. I'm Sarah.
I'm Ben. I'm Tony.
Not long later, Bowden returns to the security room and immediately stops the chaos. He orders everyone inside the elevator to stand far apart while facing the walls with their hands pressed against them. Even so, the three of them continue arguing with each other. As the case starts feeling more and more impossible to explain logically, Bowden finally asks Ramirez how the story about the devil ends. Ramirez then explains that in the end, everyone dies. Not long later, Bowden's partner discovers that Sarah has a criminal record for seducing married men and blackmailing them for money. However, after marrying a wealthy man herself, Sarah planned to divorce him and take all of his fortune. It turns out that she came to the building to meet with her lawyer.
She going to see a lawyer on 42.
Quiet down! Did you have a meeting today with Sarah Caraway? Who has motive to hurt her? She was attacked. Start with the person closest to her. Thanks.
After speaking with the lawyer, Bowden starts suspecting Sarah's husband because he most likely knew about her plan to take his wealth. However, when Bowden tries contacting him, the man cannot be reached at all. Meanwhile, Lustig is in the basement helping with the rescue operation by shutting off the water supply so the firefighters can break through the wall leading to the elevator without causing a short circuit. But while moving a cable submerged in water, he is suddenly electrocuted. Using the last of his strength, Lustig manages to walk back to the lobby before collapsing and dying, causing everyone there to panic as the situation becomes even more chaotic. After gathering more information, Bowden and his partner begin suspecting that Sarah's husband is involved in everything because he owns Caraway, the building's security company that has access to all the systems inside the building. They also become convinced that Ben is the main killer inside the elevator and that the previous victims were only distractions. Their suspicion grows even stronger because Ben is a newly hired security guard working for Sarah's husband's company and may have been recruited to kill Sarah. However, before they can find any definite answers, the elevator lights suddenly go out once again. The atmosphere inside immediately turns silent and terrifying.
Please don't let him kill me then.
Use the screens as flashlights. Keep the light on each other, keep shining it all around the elevator.
When the lights come back on, Ben is found dead with his neck horribly broken. Now only Sarah and Tony remain inside the elevator. Terrified, they quickly grab broken pieces of glass to defend themselves because they believe the killer could attack at any moment. As Bowden starts losing hope, he asks Ramirez once again how to stop all of this terror. Ramirez says that the only possible way to stop the devil may be by confessing the sins and secrets they have been hiding all this time. After hearing that, Bowden tries calming Sarah and Tony by sharing his own painful past, including the time he nearly committed suicide after losing his family. He then asks them to put down the glass shards so they will not hurt each other, and despite their fear, both of them finally obey him. However, a few moments later, the elevator lights go out once again. When the lights come back on, Sarah is lying on the floor, covered in blood with a deep wound on her neck. Tony immediately panics and tries to help her. Not long after that, a woman arrives and reveals herself to be Tony's fiancée. She explains that Tony's real name is Tony Jankowski and that he came to the building for a job interview as a technician. She also says that she came there to pick up Tony's tools because he did not want to carry them during the interview. That is the reason why Tony left the red bag in the restroom, so his fiancée could retrieve it later. At that moment, Bowden finally realizes that Jankowski is actually Tony's last name, not the old woman's. Right then, Tony and everyone in the security room witness the dead old woman suddenly coming back to life.
Please. It's her.
Are you ready for your turn, Anthony?
It becomes clear that the old woman is actually the devil in disguise. With a terrifying stare, the figure tells Tony that now it is his turn to die. Filled with fear, Tony begins remembering the dark secret he has been hiding all these years. In a flashback, he is seen driving while reaching for a drink, causing him to lose focus and crash violently into another car. After stepping out of his vehicle, he sees a woman and her child badly injured and dying. Shocked and terrified by what he has done, Tony eventually runs away and leaves behind a small apology note on the victim's car windshield. After that tragic accident, Tony lives with overwhelming guilt that continues haunting him for years. Filled with regret, he apologizes for everything he has done and begs the devil to take only his life instead of Sarah's, who is still dying in front of him. However, the devil refuses his request and suddenly causes the elevator to crash violently down the shaft, shaking everything inside with tremendous force.
It's my fault. Take me instead. It's all my fault.
You think you can make some kind of bargain? I intend to.
Take me instead, please.
Stop saying that!
After the elevator finally stops, Tony finds the technician's walkie-talkie and begins speaking with Bowden. In a state of complete despair, Tony finally confesses that he was the hit-and-run driver who killed a woman and her child in an accident 5 years earlier. He admits that he never turned himself into the police because he was too afraid, even though he has spent every day since then living with guilt and regret over what he did. His confession leaves Bowden and everyone in the security room speechless. After revealing the truth, the devil appears disappointed by Tony's sincere apology, despite wanting his soul from the very beginning.
You think you can be forgiven?
I killed a mother and her son 5 years ago. I'm so sorry.
Damn, I really wanted you.
Not long later, Sarah finally dies in Tony's arms. At the same time, the entire building suddenly loses power before the lights eventually come back on again. After that, the elevator doors finally open. However, when Bowden tries to capture the old woman, she suddenly disappears without a trace. The disappearance leaves everyone shocked and confused. They search throughout the entire building, but the woman has completely vanished. Several hours later, the situation inside the building slowly returns to normal, and the victims' bodies are finally evacuated. Most likely, the devil chooses to spare Tony because it sees genuine remorse inside him. In this movie, the devil only targets sinful people who never feel guilty about their actions. Because Tony openly confesses his sins and sincerely regrets what he has done in front of everyone, the devil loses interest in taking his soul. The movie also shows that the devil will never allow anyone to interfere with its plans. Anyone who tries to stop the terror inside the elevator ends up becoming a victim as well, even if they were never involved in the sins of the people trapped inside. This can be seen through the fate of Dwight and Lustig, two ordinary men who were only trying to repair the elevator and save the victims, yet both of them still die tragically because they were seen as obstacles to the devil's plan. Tony becomes the only survivor of the tragedy because he dares to confess his sins and truly feels guilty for what he has done. After everything is over, Bowden takes Tony to the police station. Inside the police car, the atmosphere is completely silent until Bowden finally reveals that the victims of the hit-and-run accident Tony caused 5 years ago were actually his own wife and child. Hearing that, Tony is left completely shocked and once again shows deep regret for his actions. For years, Bowden lived consumed by hatred while trying to find the man who destroyed his family. However, after everything horrifying they experienced that night, along with Tony's sincere confession and apology, Bowden finally chooses to forgive him and let go of the hatred that had slowly been destroying his life for so long. This movie carries a deep message about sin, guilt, and forgiveness. Every person who keeps running away from their mistakes will eventually have to face the consequences of their actions. But behind all the terror and darkness shown throughout the story, the movie also wants to remind us that no matter how great someone's sins may be, hope and forgiveness will always exist for those who are truly willing to admit their mistakes and sincerely regret what they have done. Because even though the devil may be real, we should never forget that God is always there for all of us. And with that, the story comes to an end.